A Machiavellian view of U.S. involvement in the global drug trade, from Vietnam to Afghanistan. From a Machiavellian perspective, understanding the real motives behind U.S. involvement in global conflicts, such as those in Vietnam and Afghanistan, requires a willingness to look beyond official narratives. The suggestion that the U.S. administration, particularly agencies like the CIA, is involved in the opium trade may seem conspiratorial, but historical examples provide a compelling basis for this view. A deeper exploration reveals a pattern where economic and political interests, particularly those linked to the drug trade, have played a significant role in shaping foreign policy decisions. The Vietnam War and the CIA's drug connections. During the Vietnam War, the CIA's involvement in the drug trade became a matter of public record, exposing the agency's complicity in trafficking narcotics to fund covert operations. The infamous Air America operation, a covert airline run by the CIA, was used to transport opium from the Golden Triangle, a region encompassing parts of Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar, notorious for its opium production. The CIA supported local warlords and paramilitary groups, such as those led by General Vang Pao in Laos, who were heavily involved in the opium trade. By turning a blind eye to, or even facilitating, drug trafficking, the CIA was able to fund anti-communist activities in Southeast Asia without relying on direct congressional funding, which would have faced public scrutiny. This pragmatic, if morally dubious, strategy echoes Machiavelli's principle that the ends justify the means. By maintaining relationships with opium producers, the CIA ensured a steady stream of income to finance its covert operations, all while avoiding the political fallout of official funding. The agency's role in the drug trade during the Vietnam War illustrates a willingness to prioritize strategic objectives over ethical considerations, a characteristic of a Machiavellian approach to statecraft. The Afghanistan opium trade, financing terrorism or covert operations. The current geopolitical landscape in Afghanistan presents a strikingly similar scenario. Afghanistan has been the world's largest producer of opium, and its role in the global drug trade is well documented. Following the U.S. invasion in 2001, opium production in Afghanistan surged, with some estimates suggesting that it now supplies over 80% of the world's heroin. This dramatic increase raises questions about the complicity of Western powers, particularly the U.S., in the opium trade. There are credible allegations that the CIA, in collusion with certain Afghan warlords, has played a role in sustaining the opium trade. This not only helps finance local militias that the U.S. has backed against the Taliban, but also provides a financial stream that can be tapped for covert operations, much like in Vietnam. The weekly payments flowing into Afghanistan from the U.S. could be viewed as more than just aid or military support. They may be part of a broader strategy to maintain control over the region's drug trade, thereby financing both overt and covert actions without direct accountability. The involvement of ISIS and the Taliban, Western support or self-sufficiency. To claim that ISIS and the Taliban operate independently of Western influence ignores the complex web of financial and logistical support that sustains these groups. Historical precedents suggest that these militant organizations have often received indirect support from state actors pursuing their own geopolitical interests. During the Cold War, for instance, the U.S. provided arms and training to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, the precursor to the Taliban, as a counter to Soviet influence in the region. This support included financial aid, some of which allegedly came from the proceeds of the drug trade. Today, the continued presence and resilience of groups like ISIS and the Taliban raise questions about whether similar backdoor dealings are still in play. The fact that these organizations control large swathes of territory where opium is cultivated suggests that they could be beneficiaries of the very trade that Western powers ostensibly seek to suppress. If so, it would not be the first time the U.S. has used such groups as pawns in a larger geopolitical game. Black operations and luxurious lifestyles. The price of covert influence. The financing of black operations, covert missions not sanctioned by official government channels, has always required significant, untraceable resources. The drug trade, with its vast revenues and inherent secrecy, provides an ideal funding mechanism. High-level individuals within agencies like the CIA or organizations such as the Pentagon could exploit these funds to support operations that are neither publicly known nor officially acknowledged. This hidden economy could also explain the lavish lifestyles of certain officials, whose wealth appears disproportionate to their official incomes. Indeed, Machiavelli himself might argue that maintaining power and influence often requires such morally ambiguous actions. From this viewpoint, the CIA's involvement in the opium trade is less an anomaly and more a natural outcome of a policy approach that places strategic advantage above ethical constraints. Conclusion: a Machiavellian analysis of U.S. involvement in the global drug trade, from Vietnam to Afghanistan, suggests that the pursuit of power and control often necessitates morally questionable actions. The CIA's historical complicity in drug trafficking during the Vietnam War set a precedent for similar behavior in Afghanistan. By using the opium trade to finance covert operations, the U.S. ensures a steady flow of resources that can be employed with minimal oversight. Moreover, the reliance on shadowy financial networks and black markets to sustain these efforts helps maintain the geopolitical status quo while enriching those who operate within the system. In the ruthless game of global power, this approach aligns with Machiavelli's teachings. To achieve and maintain power, the end often justifies the means, no matter how unscrupulous those means may appear.